Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our March 11th council meeting. This is our evening session. The time is now 6:12 p.m. I hereby call this meeting back in session. Please remember to silence your phones, and if you need to have a conversation, we please ask that you step outside to maintain a respectful atmosphere. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicole Reynoso.
Present.
Councilwoman Maureen Porras.
Here.
Councilman Rafael Pineda.
Present.
Vice Mayor Digna Cabral.
Present.
Mayor Christy Fraga.
Present.
Mayor, you have quorum.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Cabral.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Madam Clerk, I don't believe we have any changes to this evening's agenda.
No, ma'am.
All right, we'll go into the public comments portion of this meeting. I will now open the public comments portion of the meeting. We ask that if you are coming to speak on any item on this agenda or anything germane to this council, that you please allow 3 minutes to speak. We'll start with anybody who is pre-registered with the clerk's office. If you have not pre-registered, you will still have an opportunity to speak. Also, we have some public hearing items tonight. If you're coming to speak on a particular public hearing item, we ask that you please wait to come up for that item. We are going to remind everyone that in accordance with the City of Doral's Code of Conduct, that your remarks be respectful, courteous, and in an orderly manner. Any offensive language or disruptive behavior will not be allowed and you will be removed. So we please ask that you maintain a constructive atmosphere, a respectful one, so that we have a productive meeting. If anyone who is pre-registered to speak, Madam Clerk, all right,
None.
we have none. So if anyone would like to speak, now would be your reasonable opportunity. All right. Being none, public comments is now closed. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no one has chosen to speak at this time, and we will go ahead and move into our items.
We'll now go into the public hearings. Madam Mayor, may I please swear in the witnesses?
Yes, ma'am.
If you will be presenting testimony in any of the public hearing items, please stand up, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that the information that I'm about to present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. Thank you very much. First item, item 28, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving/denying variances from city's land development code as follows. 1, to allow 445 parking spaces where 520 parking spaces are required by section 77-139. 2, to allow 8.10% of pervious or heat reflective parking surfaces where a minimum of 20% is required by section 77-195. And 3, to deviate from the number and configuration of landscape islands within surface parking areas as required by section 71-213 for a Publix at Doral Plaza for the property located at 9705 through 9779 Northwest 41st Street in the city of Doral, Florida, pursuant to 53-460 and 53-468B of the city's land development code and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we move on, I just want to mention we're going to be taking up item 20A and 20B together. The clerk will read the next one into the item after the presentation as well. So we'll have to do individual votes, but all the information that will be presented will be put into the record for both items. With that being said, I would like to go ahead and open up for public comments for this item. Anyone who would like to come and speak on item, I don't have my glasses, I left them.
20A.
20A or 26-6516, please approach the podium. Also, this is public comments for item 20B, known as 26-2617. Anyone who would like to speak on these two items, now is your opportunity. Okay, being none, public comments for 20A and 20B is now closed. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no one has chosen to speak at this time, and I will take any ex parte communications. Has there been any ex parte communications?
No.
I did meet with the applicant, but at the very, very beginning of their site plan process. I met with them once, so it does not affect my decision. All right. I will hear now from staff.
IT. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Michelle Lopez, Planning Consultant with the Corradino Group, on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Department this evening. Public Supermarkets, Inc. has proposed a variance application and site plan application for property located at 9705 and 9779 Northwest 41st Street, which is on the northwest corner of Doral Boulevard and 97th Avenue. The property is approximately 11 acres. The land use category is business, and the zoning is commercial corridor. There was a workshop held on June 25th, 2025, where no one from the public had opposition or comments to the proposed site plan. The variances proffered or requested with the site plan are a parking space reduction from 521 spaces to 445 spaces, a reduction in the solar reflective index or SRI from 20% to 8.10%, and a modification to the number and configuration of the landscape islands within the parking area, where the code requires that a landscape island be placed every 10 parking spaces, and the applicant is proffering to place the landscape islands between every 8 to 15 parking spaces. And the code also requires that the landscape islands be 12 feet in width, and the applicant is proffering 10 feet, but typically like 11 to 11.5 throughout the site plan. On the table before you is the zoning and land use matrix. Like I mentioned, the land use is business and the zoning is commercial corridor. There's no overlays in the surrounding areas. Bounded by the north, you've got a land use of low-density residential and a zoning of multifamily. To the south, office, residential, and business land use, and then it's zoned office 3 and commercial corridor. To the east, you have office, residential, and business land use, and commercial corridor and industrial commercial zoning. And then to the west, you have low density residential and private parks and open space and business land use. And then your zoning is multifamily 1 general use, which is an unzoned district, and commercial corridor. Existing conditions are up on the screen. And now we get to the fun stuff. So the development that exists was built in 1987, far before the city's incorporation. Like I mentioned, it's approximately 11 acres. There's 116,155 square feet of commercial space that currently exists and 522 parking spaces. The applicant is seeking to redevelop Tract C. The site now has the main tract, which is B. Then there's a bank tract, and then also the gas station tract. So this application only deals with Tract B, which is the public shopping center and related retail. So through their application, they're requesting to reduce the existing footprint by demolishing the previous ABC Liquors in its totality. They're introducing new landscape green areas and incorporating a breezeway for connectivity to the rear of the building. They're enhancing landscaping throughout the property. They're redesigning the parking lot, and they're implementing architectural upgrades to modernize and improve the building facade. And we'll be discussing those improvements throughout this presentation. There are a total of 5 buildings, and you can see the square footage is up on the screen. And the buildings total an approximate 22% of the coverage throughout the site. So through their site plan upgrades, they're seeking to demolish almost 40,000 square feet of the current public showroom and adjacent retail, and then a little over 10,000 square feet of other inline retail space. They're going to redevelop the Publix mezzanine and adjacent retail, which is going to total almost 54,000 square feet. They're going to update all the site lighting, parking areas, drainage systems, and utilities. They are seeking to also update the landscaping, additional screen spaces in the building reduction area, and increase the landscape open spaces. They're going to modify one access point, providing for an additional movement in between Tract B and the existing bank parcel. They're going to implement off-site safety improvements on Northwest 41st Street and 97th Avenue. They're going to enhance the pedestrian and the parking improvements by installing pedestrian scale lighting bollards to improve visibility and nighttime safety. They're going to make site circulation improvements by reconfiguring the parking stall dimensions to meet contemporary design standards and optimize vehicular maneuverability by increasing the dimensions and standardizing to 9 by 19, which is the current code standard on the retail side, and then 10 by 19 on the public side. They're going to have high contrast paver crosswalks and improved pedestrian delineation, and then a direct sidewalk linkage between Doral Boulevard to the site's interior circulation network. And then finally, they're going to upgrade the current canopy and facade. So on the screen before you is a site plan and development code consistency where most of the requirements comply, but then at the end, you'll see parking counts, the SRI, and the landscape islands seek out a variance, which we'll get into more detail. So here's the proposed site, and you can see how the site is going to be reconfigured as I described briefly in the previous 2 slides ago. Elevations. And then our site plan evaluation standards all comply pursuant to the city code, which we always go through in these presentations. And then now we get to the variances. So the first variance is the reduction of parking spaces, where the code requires 521 spaces and the applicant is providing 445 spaces, which is a reduction of a total of 76 parking spaces or 14%. So your code, depending on the use, requires different parking calculations. So for the restaurants, code requires 197 spaces, 1 space per 45 square feet. For the retail of patron area. For the retail, the site plan is to yield 302 parking spaces, which comes out to 1 space per every 250 gross square feet. And for the office, 1 per 300, yielding a requirement of 21 spaces. We went out and field measured, not every space, just we took a sample, right, of the parking spaces in the rear, the parking spaces fronting the retail, and the parking spaces fronting Publix. And what we found is all of the parking spaces have different dimensions. In the rear, we found that the parking spaces are generally 7.5 feet wide by 12 feet 8 inches in length. And then in front of the retail, we have parking spaces that are 8 foot 11 inches wide and about 17 feet long, or 7.5 feet wide by 13 feet 8 inches in length, or 9 feet 3 inches wide by 17.10 in length, or 8 feet 5 inches wide by 18 feet 3 inches in length. And then on the public side, they're generally about 10 by 20 with some varying dimensions. So it's kind of all over the place on the retail side. And what they're proposing is to clean it all up. On the retail and the rear, you'll have your 9 by 19, which is your code standard. And then in front of Publix, a little bit wider, 10 by 19. I can't see the screen very well because I need glasses. So your second variance is the variance to the solar reflective index. And the code requires 20%. And how the applicant can comply with that is through open cell pavers, managed turf, porous pavement, and other proven materials. The applicant is proffering 8.10%. To mitigate this, they're looking to install high emphasis, high contrast paper crosswalks throughout the development for improved pedestrian delineation, improved and enhanced landscaping, the additional green space, and then that new pedestrian breezeway that's going to connect the retail to the parking in the rear. The last variance is the landscape areas in the parking lot. So your code requires every 10 parking spaces to have a landscape island, right? And rather than every 10 parking spaces, they're proposing to put the landscape island between every 8 to 15 parking spaces. Your code also requires that in those landscape islands on the ends, you have 12 feet islands where the applicant is proposing a 10-foot landscape-wide island. So you can see the diagram that's provided for in the code. So with that, staff recommends that the mayor and council consider The proposed variances to City Code Section 77-139 required off-street parking spaces, reducing the number of parking spaces from 521 to 445. Variance to City Code Section 77-195, pervious or heat reflective parking surfaces, reducing the minimum required solar reflective index from 20% to 8.10%. A variance to City Code Section 71-213, landscape areas and parking lots by modifying the number and configuration of landscape islands within the parking area from the required placement of the landscape islands every 10 spaces to every 8 to 15 parking spaces, and the required width of the parking island from a minimum of 12 feet to a minimum of 11 feet. And then if those variances are approved, staff recommends approval of the site plan as it is generally consistent with Chapter 68, Article 4, Commercial Districts, Division 3, Commercial Corridor, City Code Section 53-127, Zoning District Development Standards, and City Code Section 53-128, Use and Compatibility Table, City Code Section 53-144, Subsection 3, Standards for Site Plan Review, and your business future land use designation pursuant to your comp plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have presentation from the applicant?
Hi, there's a presentation. Green one goes forward, and the red goes back. I got it, thank you. Hi, I'm Barney Danzansky. Nice to meet you all and see you all this evening. Excuse me, I'm the developer. I'm with Equity Development Group, and I've been developing grocery anchored shopping centers since 1998. This is our company's 28th year. I'm going to give you some warm and fuzzy things to think about this evening, not too technical. I'll leave that to the attorneys and to Michelle, who stole all of my thunder in the presentation. So I've got more cross-outs on my presentation, so thank you. Yes. Publix operates over 1,400 supermarkets in about 880 in Florida alone, and they work across 8 states in the southeast part of the United States. They're employee-owned, and they employ over 250,000 people. It's a pretty big payroll. Part of their corporate philosophy and mission is to be engaged as responsible citizens in the communities that they serve. So we're here today asking for your permission to revitalize the shopping center, and we appreciate the service that you all provide to the community in your roles. So I'm going to push the slide now. Project team is myself as developer with my son Jordan, and if I seem nervous tonight, it's because it's the first time that I'm presenting in front of him, and he started work with me 3 or 4 years ago, so forgive me. I'm looking forward to having him do this next time. We have Land Use Council Mario Garcia and Elenette Ruiz Diaz de la Portilla. Civil landscaping from Grafe Nelson Ortiz. Landscape architecture Grafe is Paulo Ferreira. And we have our traffic engineers Corey Dorman and Victoria Rodriguez. So any questions you may have about the project, we have our full cadre of consultants here for you this evening. Michelle did such a wonderful job of telling us why we're here. I won't go through this slide. We'll just skip that one. So Publix acquired the shopping center in 2019 as part of our larger portfolio, and that's when our redevelopment efforts started. The existing store, as Michelle pointed out, was built in 1987. It's turning 39 years old today. It's store 31, so it's one of their first in the system. This store existed prior to the city of Doral's existence. And it brings me a lot of pleasure to be here today because my dad, or my camp dad, Morgan Levy, who was one of the founders of Doral, lived down here. So I got a chance to have time with him in his later days as I was working on this project. I know he'd be proud of what Doral has become at this point. In 2019, we met city staff and started discussing development goals, and from the outset, our goals were to improve safety, improve operations and circulation, improve functionality and accessibility, and improve the overall appearance of the center. And I can tell you that none of those goals have shifted to today. The hearing today represents a culmination of hundreds, likely thousands of hours of city staff's time, county staff, our consultants, redeveloping a 39-year-old center while accommodating existing tenants and modern standards proved to be a very complex undertaking. And we want to thank everyone, including Michelle and her staff, for the help along the way. I can tell you that they kept our feet to the fire throughout the entire process. especially with the Doral Boulevard overlay requirement that pretty much led to the necessity of some of the variances. And we're proud to have a staff's recommendation tonight to proceed. High level, look at this slide. We are removing all the head-in parking at the shopping center, enhancing our pedestrian zones. We are realigning our drive aisles and internal aisles, as Michelle pointed out, to standardized parking and circulation. Overall, we're reducing our retail square footage by over 6,000 square feet, so it's a less intense development. We have complied with the Doral Boulevard overlay and additionally have added site lighting, and we'll be building a beautiful modern storeroom. So this is the inside of what this particular prototype will look like. And then these are the areas that we're touching in a material way. We're adding a in and out where it's presently, I believe, just an out up on the northern side of the site. We are reconfiguring the parking fields, as Michelle talked about. We're introducing the Doral Boulevard overlay. We've eliminated a turning motion out of the shopping center for eastbound traffic on 41st at DOT's request. We'll be punching through to the Chase parcel for better circulation and creating some more green space on the site. This is just a quick picture of the Doral Boulevard overlay and what we'll be accomplishing there, a new sidewalk with whatever the requirements are of the city for benches and lighting, trees. Without further ado, I kept you all awake for a moment. I'm going to transition to Mario, who will walk through the variance process. And thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barney. Hopefully I can have just as good luck keeping you guys awake. My name is Mario Garcia Serra with offices at 600 Brickell Avenue, here this evening representing Public Supermarkets in connection with their proposed redevelopment of store number 31 at Doral Park Plaza. Before we go into the particulars of each variance request, I think that it's important to discuss why you have a variance process in your code. The law requires that there be a variance process because the law recognizes that there will be instances when a relaxation or variance of requirements is justified by the circumstances and in the public interest. That, respectfully, is the case here. The zoning code is generally based on requirements for building a whole new project from the ground up. Here, we are working to improve an existing condition. Just as a variance would be justified for an irregular shaped property, a variance is also justified when one is building within and limited by an already existing shopping center. Each of these variances are being requested in the context of improving an existing store and shopping center. With regards to each particular variance, on the variance for parking, as Michelle so eloquently described and went out and inspected herself and confirmed, the existing parking field is a mishmash of substandard size spaces, many without proper backup space or drive aisles, and many too close for comfort or for the safety of pedestrians. What good is a parking space if the standard car cannot fit in that space? And if you cannot easily get in and out of that parking space, that space is essentially useless. Or even worse, as you saw in some of the pictures, one car taking up 2 parking spaces. The important thing is for that parking space to be useful and for there to be sufficient parking to meet maximum demand. This is something that Publix takes very seriously. Parking is the lifeblood of Publix's business. They are especially sensitive to making sure that parking is plentiful and easy. We ourselves did a thorough study on multiple days for peak parking demand, and that peak number was 317, adjusted for some seasonal factors and to have some extra space. The number they came to was 328 parking spaces at peak demand, and the plan before you tonight has 445 spaces, still 100 space more than what our peak demand has been after field study and confirmation. And all of these spaces will comply with present-day standards and will be safe and useful. The next variance having to do with the solar reflective material in the parking area. Again, there is only so much space to work with within the existing parking field. And while utilizing SAR assists with the heat island effect, so does increased landscaping. And in the choice between SRI and increased landscaping, we went the route of increasing landscaping. The amount of landscaped area on the site is going to be increasing from 11% to 17% of the site, and now be in compliance with the code requirement for landscape for this property. Lastly, the number of parking islands within the parking area will remain the same because, again, we are limited by the constraints of what already exists today. Any additional landscape islands would negatively impact parking count and the ease of use of those parking spaces. Madam Mayor and council members, this public is a community institution. It has served the city's residents well for many decades, and these proposed improvements will help to ensure that shopping here will continue to be a pleasure for many decades to come. Thank you very much to each of you, and many thanks to your staff for working through this with us. It's been a long process, but I think we're bringing now a great new product for your residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
We'll, of course, reserve time if we need to respond to any
Yes, of
questions.
course. Thank you. All right, I believe this concludes the presentations from staff and the applicant, and we will now open it up for any comments or discussion from the council.
I have some comments.
Yes, Councilwoman Porras?
Yeah. Thank you to our staff and also to the public staff for bringing this forward and also for all the considerations. Obviously, I love Publix, and that's actually the Publix where I shop. So I always run into a lot of folks there, and it's a great space, right? And I am very supportive of the redevelopment, and I've been looking forward to a bigger Publix in that area. Obviously, my concern is the parking spaces, right? And I appreciate that you guys are making these larger, considering that some of the parking spaces there are a problem. But, you know, they should have never been that small in the first place. And I know this was before even the city was incorporated, so it's not really your fault either. But I really can't support reducing 76 parking spaces, maybe 10, something, you know, less significant. I would be in favor of doing, because I know that 10 years from now, we're going to look back at this and wish we had a lot more space. So for me, that I just wanted to put that on record. I can't support the variances, but of course I will be supporting the redevelopment and improvement that you guys are making in that area. So thank you guys.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank the administration and the Planning and Zoning Department for making this possible. I know that we had a workshop last June in 2025, I guess, and I believe most of the concerns were addressed on that moment. And I also want to thank the applicant. I mean, we all love Publix, right? I mean, everybody loves Publix. Speaking about concerns, my concern will be to keep the plaza the way that it is, to be honest with you. I mean, I do recall even when I was part of the staff, and I'm sure the city manager also remember, the mayor back then was part of the council too. I mean, one of the main complaints that we usually get from that particular plaza is parking spaces, because they're small. You have, as you expressed, I mean, you have you have one car taking 2 spaces most of the time. Sometimes you have large trucks taking 3 spaces. So, and to be honest, I mean, we're a city that it means progress. It means that we have to keep moving forward. And yes, this plaza is from 1987. I was 3 years old when that took place. So, so of course, we need to make improvements, and I'm happy that you're bringing this before us, and that we're going to be the ones making it happen. So I think this is great. You cover certainly the concerns that I always had about that particular plaza when you talk about the constraint of parking field, the inefficient internal circulation. I mean, there has been a lot of car crashes inside the parking lot because of the spaces. The inconsistency with the city's Doral Boulevard overlay. You're going to have a new development across the street. So certainly you want to be at the same standard, the same level. And as you mentioned, and Michelle also mentioned, the inconsistent with the current code requirements. So I think for me, this is common sense, as I always like to say. And certainly you have my support, but I wanted to address, and especially for the residents and everybody that is watching, that to understand that, number one, again, 1987. So we have to, and it's not only that particular plaza. I mean, we have to, I wish that we can talk about the plazas that still around prior to Doral was incorporated in 2003. So, because we have the same issue in other places when it comes to parking spaces. And since a lot of time I also go to that particular Publix, the fact that you cannot even take your shopping cart and leave it in a nice, like proper place is an issue too. So, you have to go back to the store, which is great. The walk back and forth.
Nobody does it.
Not a lot of people actually do that, right? So, but the fact that you can now include that as part of the project too, and again, it's part of what we call progress, and I think that that's where you're making that happen with these particular changes. So I'll be more than glad to move forward on this and also present the motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilman. There's a motion to approve.
I have a comment
Oh, yes, Councilwoman Reynoso.
through the mayor. Well, for this particular project, I want to thank everyone also for taking the opportunity to give us all this information that we can relate back to the residents. I do value and appreciate the improvements that are going to be made in this center. I think it's very reflective of the Doral that we're trying to create and build today. And parking spaces to me is extremely important because we're seeing a lot of areas in Doral that should have had more parking spaces than planned for, especially in the residential area here in downtown Doral. Having said that, the parking spaces that are currently in this area, it's almost illusory. They don't really exist because it's not functional spaces, for at least some of them are. So to have a cohesive parking code in the area where there are set spaces and measurements for each space, I think it's the way to go. So again, typically a reduction of parking spaces would have been an issue to me, but the way that this project has been explained and the way that the cohesiveness in all of the area of the shopping center is going to be, I believe it's going to be a better way of parking. We're going to have more accessibility. It's going to be easier to come in and out of the parking lot. And I do agree, when you go to Publix, you want to go in and out. You don't want to be struggling to park. I think that would be a disservice to our residents if that was the way that this was presented, but it's not. So I have no issue with the variants that are being asked for today, and I will second that motion.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Vice Mayor, do you have any comments? No. Okay. I'm also going to just make a quick comment. So when I first met with the applicant, there were several variances that were discussed. So I'm happy to see that there was a reduction in that and you were able to meet the standards of our Doral Master Boulevard, which I think is extremely important. I think your father would be very pleased with, Jay. So I think that this is a improved project from where we are today. I also use this public. I've lived across the street for 28 years now. And I can tell you, I agree with the Councilwoman completely. Even though there's more parking spaces there right now, they're not useful because they're so small that you have two cars that take up, one car that take up two parking spaces. So I think we do a better service to our community in making sure the parking spaces are to the standard sizes of our code versus saying we have a particular number of parking spaces that are not actually utilized. Additionally, in this update and this improvements to this project, we will now be able to actually use the parking spaces that are in the back of the shopping center, whereas right now, you have several spaces in the back that aren't utilized because there's no breezeway. So you're reducing the footprint, creating the breezeway, which gives accessibility to parking spaces that are there now, but as the councilman said, elusive because they're not used. So I think this is very practical. I think it's common sense. I'm a common sense person, as the councilman said. So you have my support on it because you worked with our staff to meet the improvements that our Master Boulevard Plan really calls for. So I think this is going to be an upgrade. I think it's extremely justified, the variances that are being asked for. They're not what we had what you had requested at the beginning, which I was not in favor of. So I think that we got to a practical place that will not only continue to enhance our community, improve property values, but really be practical. You know, at the end of the day, Publix, where shopping is a pleasure, needs to be quick, easy, and convenient. Publix is a owner of this shopping center, so I have no doubt that whatever was going to be done would be done for the convenience of the shopper. I think that if there was a huge reduction where you felt it would be a negative impact to your shoppers, you wouldn't be asking for it. And I think that parking was one of the major concerns, but for me it was more the size of the parking spots than how many, because right now there's more and we're not using them. I can tell you that firsthand. I know studies were done to make sure that at peak hours the number of spaces were taken into consideration and that there was a reduction that was cohesive with the actual usage of the location. So I'm very comfortable moving forward with all the work that was done. I believe it was also almost a year ago that we met, on the first site plan reviews. And from where we were then to where we are now, it really shows me that you took your time to make it happen, work with staff, and ask for variances that truly were justifiable. So thank you for your hard work in this. Jay, thank you and your family for always believing in Doral and being pioneers here. Mario, of course, all of you, Estela Portilla, thank you all for what you all do, and of course our staff who did a great job. So I'm pleased to see this happen. I think it'll be a great improvement, and I will be supportive. So we're ready to move forward.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, Councilwoman, go ahead.
Okay. Based on what each of you have just said, it's my understanding that under the code, this redevelopment would require larger parking spaces, right? If someone can answer that, please.
Certainly. So the current code standard requires a minimum of 9 feet by 19 feet for redevelopment.
Right. So the parking spaces would have to be larger than the 7 foot or, the smaller spaces.
Right,
so that's why it's a variance, right? So we would have, under the code, the developer would have to create larger spaces anyway, so we would be able to utilize them. And that's why they're coming here to ask for a reduction. So they cannot rebuild under this the small spaces that we're seeing right now, the small parking spaces. So I just want to clarify that. So it's not going to be parking spaces that we couldn't use. And the reason why we don't have all the parking spaces filled right now is because they are tiny. And not everywhere, but in a lot of the spaces. So I just want to clarify that. The code requires larger parking spaces if they're to move forward with this redevelopment. We, right now, are talking about providing a reduction of those larger spaces. So I just want to put that on record. Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, the reason they can't meet the number of parking spaces required by the code is because they have to do larger parking spaces. Right, Michelle?
That's correct. You're dealing with a set.
So if you ask me which one is more practical, it's to have the larger parking spaces, because right now they have the number of parking spaces they're required to have, but they're not being utilized.
That's correct.
That's correct. Yes. So, yes, I think that, again, common sense. So, all right, we're ready to call the question? Madam Clerk, please call the question.
Motion to approve made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilman Reynoso. Councilman Pinedo?
Yes.
Councilman Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilman Porras?
No.
Vice Mayor Cabral?
No.
Mayor Fraga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and read item 20B into the record, and then we're going to incorporate the same presentation we just had into those.
Item 20B, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving the site plan modification for Publix at Doral Plaza located at 9705-9779 Northwest 41st Street, city of Doral, Florida, pursuant to section 53-184F of the city's land development code, providing for implementation, incorporation, of recitals, and an effective date.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and incorporate all the previous comments into this item, as well as the public comments and ex parte communication, unless anybody would like to add something. If there's nothing to add, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Pinedo,
Second.
second by Councilman Reynoso. If there's no additional comments to add, applicant okay with all the comments on record? Yes? Madam Planning and Zoning Director?
No further comments from staff. Thank you.
Mr.
And we're fine with all the recommended conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Motion to approve made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilman Reynoso. Councilman Pinedo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynoso?
Yes.
Councilwoman Porras?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cabral?
Yes.
Mayor Fraga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
We
very
look
much.
forward to-
Looking forward to inviting everybody to the
Yes.
ribbon cutting when we open the new store.
Absolutely. What's your time frame?
Excuse me, time frame?
Jay?
Go ahead, Barney.
All right, you can tell me later. You can tell me later. I'm excited to see it.
Yes. We intend to start work in the second half of '27 and open a year.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you all again.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's move on to item 20C. Just
Second
like
read.
20A and 20B, we're going to take up item 20C, 20D, and 20E together since they're all the same project as well.
Item 20C, second reading, ordinance number 2025-49, Flum Amendment, Eurocon LLC, Ritz Sky Mansions. An ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving a small-scale land use amendment to the city of Doral comprehensive plan, land use map, to change the land use designation from Office O to Office and Residential OR for plus or minus 4.95 acres generally located at 3285 Northwest 107th Avenue, providing for suitability, conflicts, and an effective date. This was approved on first reading on December 10th.
All right. We're going to go ahead and open up public comments for item 20B, also known as 20C, also known as 25-6431, 20D, also known as 25-6432, and 20E, also known as 26-6515. Anyone who would like to speak on any of these three items, please approach the podium. Being none, and seeing no one is walking into the chambers at this time, we will close the public comments for these three items. Madam Clerk, let the record show that no one has chosen to speak at this time. And now I will take any ex parte communication. Okay, I did have ex parte communication with the applicant at the initial stages, and it does not affect my decision. All right, Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. IT? Thank you. Okay. The applicant this evening is proposing a project that they refer to as Ritz Sky Mansions located at 3285 Northwest 107th Avenue on the southeast corner of Northwest 33rd Street and Northwest 107th Avenue. The site is approximately 4.95 acres where a current Aloft Hotel is already developed and a parking field exists for the Aloft Hotel. The project that we're going to discuss this evening is going to be built on that parking field. You can kind of see it in the location map. The parking field is to the east, and the developed portion is to the west of the site. A workshop was held on October 22nd, 2025, where no members of the public objected to the proposed project. To the north, south, east, and west, the future land use category is industrial, and to the north, south, east, and west, the zoning is also industrial, but with industrial commercial to the east. The applicant proposes second reading this evening for land use and zoning. The current land use is office, and the current zoning is Office 3. Site areas of the existing developed site and surrounding the area are before you on the screen. And so let's talk about the future land use map amendment. Today is second reading. The applicant is going from office to office residential. Office currently permits corporate, commercial, and professional offices, hotels, medical buildings, entertainment, and cultural facilities, up to a floor area ratio of 5%, and shall contain retail and service uses. Building heights cap at 14 stories. Open space requirement is minimum 15%. And then your floor area ratio requirements is 0.5 on the first floor, 0.25 each additional floor, and then structured parking is excluded from your FAR application calculations. The applicant is proposing a land use map amendment to office and residential use, which permits professional offices and clerical offices, hotels, motels, residential uses with a maximum of 16 units per gross acre. FAR of up to 10%, containing retail and service to serve the on-site residents and businesses, a building height max of 8 stories, and open space requirement of 15%, and then floor area ratios very similar to that of office. One item to point out, if you notice, the building heights in the proposed land use amendment are 8 stories, where the current permitted are 14 stories, so there's gonna be a decrease in that available height, which I think is important for purposes of this conversation. And then the FAR goes up to 10% in the amendment, whereas currently it's at 5%. This is also second reading of the project where the applicant is requesting to rezone from Office 3 to multifamily 4. The purpose of the rezoning is to insert the residential use, allowing for the residential tower to proceed. In Office 3, the intent is, the code's intent provides for office use environments for low to high intensity office uses. Again, in the office district, you can go up to 14 stories, where in the multifamily 4, you're capped at 8 stories. The uses permitted are in office are professional and medical offices, art galleries, theaters, and museums, hotels and motels with a max density of 75 units per acre, and then hotels and motels with uses integrated into the project in an amount no less than 10% of the total FAR with a max density of 95 units per acre, and then retail services no more than 5% of the FAR, and public schools. Through the rezoning, the intent of MS4 is to provide residential district allowing for mid and high-rise condominiums and apartments with high density. These uses include hotels, max 75 units per acre, private recreation areas, family daycares and after school for children, group homes, houses of worship, and some ancillary uses, government uses, et cetera. Again, with a lower building capped at 8 stories. So the applicant's request for the site plan is to develop the eastern portion of the property with an 8-story mixed-use project comprising of 69 residential units, 5,000 square feet of office space, and structured parking. The structured parking will also house the parking for the existing hotel use, and that is delineated in their draft HOA documents, which will be recorded at time of through the covenant in lieu of unity of title. The project is not going to plat. Instead, they're going to do the covenant in lieu. The project features modern architectural design, bike racks, landscaping, pedestrian walkways, and public art, and then complies with all of the land development code requirements with reference to floor area ratio, maximum heights. They're going to go to 8 stories, the minimum lot area, the max building, open space, setbacks, et cetera. Here's a copy of the site plan. So you can kind of see on the east side, looks like that configuration is actually the inside of the garage. And then for the units, the residents are going to be able to drive up and park at their unit. And I think the applicant has a video that kind of shows that simulation. Here are proposed renderings. Oh, hi, what happened to my presentation? Thank you. Proposed renderings, your elevations, and then with all of my site plans, your plan complies with all of the applicable standards in the code, consistency with your comprehensive plan, promoting better site design, integration of project more effectively into the surrounding area, enhancements of property values. It ensures harmonious relationship amongst buildings, uses, and visitors, The project is seeking to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents and visitors. Traffic concerns are addressed, and the last criteria is not applicable. With that, staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the following request for an approximately 4.95 acre property generally located at 3285 Northwest 107th Avenue. Land use amendment from office to land use amendment from office to office and residential, a rezoning request from office 3 to multifamily 4, and then site plan to develop the eastern portion of the property with an 8-story mixed-use project comprising of 69 residential units, 5,000 square feet of office space, and a structured parking with for the 2 existing hotels on the western portion, as well as the 69 residential dwelling units. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. We'll hear from the applicant if there's any additional comments.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. For the record, my name is Bill Riley with offices located at 16343 Southwest 256th Street. Delighted to be here this evening with you, and I'm joined by our project architect, Tony Rodriguez, and the principal of the project, Orlando Padron. And collectively, we represent Eurocon LLC, the owner of the property and the applicant before you tonight. With your permission, Madam Mayor, I'd like to truncate the presentation into one presentation, although we have 3 items pending before you this evening, including the land use amendment, the rezoning, and the request for site plan approval, which staff just mentioned. And at the beginning of my presentation, I really want to thank your staff for working with us. This project has been evaluated and studied for about 16 months, definitely over a year. It's gone through all the different trades and all the different disciplines, including the city of Doral's professional staff, but also Miami-Dade County's professional staff as well. And as you heard, the property is about 5 acres in size. And it currently is developed with 2 detached hospitality towers and a surface parking lot. The hotels that were mentioned on the site are each 7 stories in height, and they accommodate about 284 keys in total, and it also has a full-service restaurant on the ground floor. Now, this was approved in 2011, not too long ago, and built shortly thereafter. The property is zoned, I'm sorry, before I get into the zoning, let's talk about the surrounding area. The property is surrounded by parcels that are designated industrial. It's designated for industrial use, although the site has never been used for industrial purposes. Although it has historically been an island unto itself, staff noted in its recommendation that the area occupies, and I quote, occupies a transitional position within a rapidly evolving development pattern that includes both industrial and residential uses. They went on to conclude that while the surrounding area is generally characterized by industrial zoning, the property's existing configuration, including the mid-rise office structures, surface parking, internal vehicular circulation, is more consistent with a mixed-use office and residential land use designation than its current office designation. We completely agree with your professional staff. It's which we studied this property before presenting it to the city, and we took a long time in deciding what was not just the best and highest use for the property, but what was the appropriate use. And the reason I said I was delighted to be here is not just because it's been over a year to get to this point for us this evening, but also because I've never been part of a development program like this in my 25 plus years of practicing. It's really an innovative new concept that I can't find anywhere in the United States. It's really something that I'm proud to be part of, but also I would love to live in because it takes away a lot of the drawbacks associated with vertical high-rise residential buildings. And let me go into the property a little bit, or the project a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to our project architect to give you a visual presentation. But the project that we're proposing tonight is 8-story mixed-use project. It's a small density level at only 69 residential units. And it's mixed use because it has the 5,000 square feet of professional office and the structured parking that your staff went over a moment ago. Now, when I said it's been reviewed by all different disciplines, that includes DERM. DERM reviewed it for compliance with potable water service, wastewater disposal, and the wellfield protection areas. They determined after their analysis, which is included within your packet this evening, that the project complies and needs no further analysis pursuant to section 24-43.1 of the Miami-Dade County Code. Solid Waste Department for Miami-Dade County also reviewed this project, and they reviewed it along with DERM to make sure that it complies with your existing levels of service. What I mean by that is that your current infrastructure wouldn't be burdened by the proposed development project, that it has sufficient or surplus capacity to serve the existing development the way it is. So sometimes when you approve a development project, you'll see that the roadway gets torn up and there's a lot of off-site infrastructure work. This project doesn't have those burdens associated with it. And Solid Waste Department determined that for the next 5 years, not just today, but for the next 5 years, this area would have a sufficient level of service to accommodate the proposed 69 multifamily residential units. The public school system also reviewed the project and determined that they would grant us a concurrency reservation that went from last year into the middle of this year. Now, of course, that can also be extended, but that's their longest reservation that they offer, is 1 year in time. And this project, after analysis, was awarded that reservation. Traffic Analysis Department for the city and also Miami-Dade County reviewed the project, provided a detailed analysis within your agenda packet, and issued their approval back in August 13th of 2025. So they were one of the first departments that we really tackled to make sure that the project was appropriately designed and any questions could be addressed at the beginning of the planning process rather than the end. So we really designed the project around traffic circulation being a priority, and that's why we were able to get their approval in August of last year. The Planning and Zoning Department, when we earned their recommendation of approval, and I say earned it because this is not the project that was initially presented. We had to go through a lot of reiterations, a lot of modifications to address concerns that they had, to make sure that we were able to put our best foot forward and earn their recommendation of approval. Now, they examined a lot of different categories. I just want to go over 3 because I think that they are the paramount categories within your code. One of them is the strategic plan alignment. And the proposed project has been determined to further and promote this policy when staff determined that the revenue growth strategic goal of the City of Doral strategic plan would be promoted by increasing the property value, thereby adding to new revenues to the city's property tax basis, and the fees. They mentioned that it's important to note that the additional tax revenues may be used to fund the infrastructure projects associated with the city's 5-year improvement policy in their plan. Now, the other paramount issue was how are we going to impact existing projects in the area? And I always take a look at the people's home as being a priority with that and how we're going to impact existing residential areas. Now, I mentioned that this is sort of an island unto itself because we're surrounded by industrial designations. But staff also mentioned that it's appropriate to have this transition from industrial and office to a mixed-use project that includes residential because we're not the first. Staff in their recommendation, and again I quote, said it's importantly, the site situated approximately 650 feet west of the nearest residential multifamily residential district, located on Northwest 33rd Street and Northwest 104th Avenue, approximately half a mile away from this project. So we are separated from existing residential, but as I'll talk about in a moment, there's a development trend to include residential as going into this area. Conclusion on the land use application, at the conclusion of their memo and their recommendation, they indicated that the requested future land use map amendment from office residential to the office residential designation is justified by the site's physical comparability with residential development standards, strategic infill location, and its role in bringing the gap between distinct land use categories. The OR designation supports a mix of professional office, hotel, and residential uses, all of which are suitable given the site's built form and surrounding context. Now, when we talk about the site plan itself and the zoning classification, I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation that it was a modest development program. And the reason I say that is because we have designed a project that, yes, it's innovative, but it doesn't even approach any of the ceilings associated with the maximum allowable uses and the maximum allowable development rights under the zoning code that we're asking for. So the planned development program presented for your review and consideration this evening was created from a holistic approach, wherein innovation was commingled with regulatory compliance. Through these efforts, we have been able to present this modest plan for redevelopment, one that measures significantly below the standardized thresholds allowed for the land use development regulations. First, for example, the property, inclusive of both existing and the proposed development, so including the hotel towers and the proposed mixed-use building, is substantially less intense than what would be generally permitted. The MF4 district permits FAR at a maximum rate of 0.5 for the first floor and 0.25 for each additional floor, and exclusive of the structured parking. The total first floor for this project, including the hotel components that are already existing there, comes out to 0.22. So we are over half of a less FAR calculation than what would be permitted within the zoning classification. The maximum permitted height within the district is 9 stories. We're proposing 8 stories. The maximum permitted building coverage is 50%. We're proposing 19% of a building coverage area for this lot. So we're going to have significant landscaping and open space. The minimum required open space for development exceeding 6 stories in height is 35%. We're proposing almost 44%. So we're exceeding all those thresholds. Now, again, I started talking again about parking at the beginning of my presentation. This project comes out to requiring 421 parking spaces. We exceed that, and we're proposing 449 parking spaces on site. The aesthetic design model, which I'll turn over to Tony in just one moment, of the project has been intensely reviewed and found to be one that will promote the concept of good urban planning. For instance, it improves the pedestrian connectivity. Your staff has determined in their recommendation that the site incorporates clear, well-defined pedestrian pathways, landscaping, and seating areas that will encourage walkability and provide safe, attractive connections throughout the site and the adjacent properties. It'll also promote the public realm enhancements that your land use plan and your zoning code mutually promote. The inclusion of civic space around the project, public art installations, and upgraded landscaping creates a high-quality public realm that fosters community engagement and supports placemaking. That was your staff's conclusion after reviewing this project. The landscaping open space was reviewed and analyzed and determined that the project allocates approximately 44% of the site to landscaped open space, exceeding the minimum requirement and contributing to environmental quality, stormwater management, and visual appeal. The last thing I want to mention before turning it over is that on the rezoning itself, they have several points of justification that has concluded in a staff recommendation of approval. The one that I thought stood out the most for me was when staff determined that the increasing regional demand for higher density housing options near employment centers and transit corridors supports the property's transition to the MF4 zoning. It promotes the legislative policy. It provides for a push that provides the quality residential component within this district, but doesn't even approach the maximum allowable thresholds. We think that that's really important because there's always a demand for additional housing, but it's important to know where you're placing that housing and to make sure that you're providing something that's appropriate, but doesn't overburden the existing infrastructure or the residents of that area. All of those concepts were taken into consideration when we designed this project. And again, I'm happy to stand here before you this evening because I think we were really able to make all those elements come together and present a really outstanding project for your consideration. With that, I'll turn it over to Tony and ask him to go through the visual presentation.
Thank you so much, Bill. For the record, my name is Tony Rodriguez de Aeche. I'm the project architect on this project. My office is located at 2441 Northwest 93rd Avenue in Doral. And having the great presentation done by Ms. Lopez and by Bill, I'm going to cut my presentation by 90%. Basically, what I'd like to show you is a video that we prepared.
IT, play the video, please.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, this will show you the concept, which is a totally unique concept, and basically everything else is. I'd like for you to take a look at what the main concept is on this project, which I think is a unique one. The car is not included in the sale price. Okay, we're approaching now what I really want you to take a look at here.
It's nice.
You will actually be able to drive into your own garage. These are basically single-family houses placed vertically. So imagine taking your shopping, your grocery shopping straight from your garage to your kitchen. To my knowledge, this is not available anywhere in the U.S.
Very nice.
Okay, so now that we know the, basically now that you've seen the concept, which is what I wanted to show, there's really, with the presentation that Bill Riley and Michelle Lopez have done, I really don't have to add much to it, except that reiterate two things. Number one, we are proposing 69 units where 109 units are allowed. And number two, I think it's also very important to say that to reiterate that the traffic study, I'd like for you to, Carlos, could you pass these over? I'd like to pass around a couple of sheets that having to do with the traffic study. We conducted a traffic study in which it was concluded that the project will generate only 28 and 40 net vehicle trips during the AM and the PM peak hours respectively. Basically, and I'm going to quote exactly from the traffic study. Since the proposed project generates less than 100 new two-way vehicle trips during the AM and the peak hours, the impact of the project on the adjacent street network can be considered minimal. So these are two things that are very important. We're not going to affect the traffic, and we're going much lower than the code allows in terms of density, as Bill said, everything else. So basically, this is all that I really have to add. I think the presentation by Bill and Michelle Lopez has been great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. With that, we'll conclude the presentation, and we'll answer any questions you may have. Hopefully, we tried to cover as much as we could.
Yes, very, very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now hear from the council. If anybody has any comments, I believe, like I said, we're taking up item 20C, 20D, and 20E. We'll have the clerk read each one into the record, but we'll need a conversation or a motion to approve at this time.
Motion.
Motion to approve by Councilwoman Reynoso. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman
Good.
Pinedo.
Wanna make
Yes, you have a
quick
comment,
comments.
Councilman Pinedo?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that, as I mentioned during the first reading, I think that it's a great project. You know, when people ask about, traffic concerns, which is my concern too, I always like to explain, well, what are the options? You want to have an office building of 14 stories as you're allowed in that property? Or you want to have something that really makes sense and improve the area, increase property values as well, like the project that you're presenting. So, and for me, when it comes to traffic, you don't need to be an engineer or an expert to realize that office buildings and warehouses actually create more traffic than residential units. It's common sense. So, again, we have a very high quality project. I believe this is going to increase the property values in the area because you have more residential units on 33rd Street. It goes along with the vision of the city when we speak about progress and everything that we're doing to make sure that Doral remains the place to be. So I want to thank the applicant. You did a great job, Tony, with that video. I think everybody's going to love it. So I'm certainly very happy, but I just wanted to clarify and I made the comment because I know we might hear about some traffic concerns, and it's good to explain to the residents that when we approve something like this is because it really makes more sense, not only for us as residents, but also for the community overall. And I know these properties, these units are going to be for sale, right? Yes, they are. Which it makes even more sense. Because if you ask me, any city is actually, when you have more community rentals, for example, that means that you have people that for different reasons cannot afford to buy a property. So the fact that we can offer more units that are going to be on, and I'm sure they're going to go away very fast, that means that the city is doing well. So that's why I'm happy with the proposal. And again, especially for the residents, if we hear something about traffic concerns, this is what really makes sense in that area. And if someone else says something different, certainly I would be more concerned about approving more warehouses, for example, having more trucks in the area, like you see across the street, for example. So, again, I'm happy with the project and congratulations to you and the whole team. And thank you to our planning and zoning department because again, they're always behind the decisions that we make, and I'm happy that they're on the same page. So, congratulations.
One of the things that I did not say because I cut my presentation short was to thank your staff today. Your staff has been fantastic in helping us get to this point.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? I think we have a motion and a second. If there's no additional comments, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-49 on second reading made by Councilwoman Reynoso, seconded by Councilman Pinedo. Councilwoman Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilman Pinedo.
Yes.
Councilman Porras.
No.
Vice Mayor Cabral.
No.
Mayor Fraga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, Madam Clerk, please go ahead and read item 20D into the record.
Item 20D, second reading, ordinance number 2025-50, Eurocon LLC Ritz-Carlton Mansions rezoning. An ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving an amendment to the city's official zoning map from Office 303 to multifamily residential 4M4 for plus or minus 4.95 acres for the property located at 3285 Northwest 107th Avenue, providing for stability, conflicts, and an effective date. This was approved on first reading on December 10th.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and incorporate the presentation, the comments, public comments, ex parte communication into this item as well, unless anybody has anything else to add. If there's nothing else to add from the applicant or from staff, I need a motion.
Motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Pinedo.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Reynoso. If there's no additional comments, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2025-50 on second reading made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilwoman Reynoso. Councilman Pinedo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilman Porras.
No.
Vice Mayor Cabral.
No.
Mayor Fraga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, go ahead and read item 20E.
Item 20E, a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, approving a site plan modification for Sky Reeds Mansions located at 3285 Northwest 107th Avenue in the city of Doral, Florida, pursuant to section 53-184F of the city's land development code and providing for an effective date.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and incorporate all the comments and presentations as well as public comments from the public and ex parte communications. If there's nothing else to add, need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Pinedo.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Reynoso. There's no additional comments. Madam Clerk?
Motion to approve made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilwoman Reynoso. Councilman Pinedo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilman Porras.
No.
Vice Mayor Cabral.
No.
Mayor Fraga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the applicant. I think it's a great product.
Thank you so much.
Very
Beautiful. It's
innovative with
beautiful.
the parking spaces right in front of the units. Very high end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to this project.
Next item, 20F, ordinance number 2026-03, regulating business with OFAC sanctioned countries. An ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Doral, Florida, amending section 41-78 of the city's code of ordinances, providing for incorporation of recitals, conflicts, severability, incorporation into the code, and an effective date. This was approved on first reading on February 18th.
All right, this is my item. It's the second item. Let me go ahead and open up public comments. Public comments now open for item 20F, also known as 26-6511. Anyone who would like to speak on this item and this item alone, please approach the podium. Being none, public comments now closed. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no one has chosen to speak at this time. There's been no changes from first to second reading. This is the same item that we heard at the last council meeting regarding the business, regulating businesses with OFAC, which may not even apply very soon. But we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve. Motion to approve by Councilman Pinedo.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Reynoso. If there's no additional comments, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Motion to approve ordinance 2026-03, made by Councilman Pinedo, seconded by Councilwoman Reynoso. Councilman Pinedo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynoso.
Yes.
Councilwoman Porras.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cabral.
Yes.
Mayor Fraga.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Hopefully our Secretary of State and our President are working on not having to worry about things like that
Thank you.
anymore. All right, before we conclude, I have 2 points of personal privilege real quick that I'd like to say. First, I want to thank our Planning and Zoning temporary director that was here, Michelle Lopez. Thank you very much to you and Corodino Group for stepping in when the city really needed you. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. Planning and zoning is a very difficult department, very technical, but we are very pleased to now have Mr. Magrizo join our team as the new director with a lot of new experience as well. Corodino Group is not going far. You're still part of our master plan, comprehensive plan update, and will still be a consultant that will be attached to several of our projects. But you have been a great asset for us over the past year. Has it been 2 years, Michelle? No way. Well, 2 years, but you've been a part of this team, and so we really very much are grateful for your work and dedication and commitment to the city of Doral. So thank you and Corodino Group. Round of applause for Michelle. We'll miss you here every day. I think the manager wants to add something too.
Yes, of course, I want to echo the mayor's comments. Michelle, you've been wonderful to work with since the day I walked in the door. We rely on you for so much. I know we're going to continue to rely on you for more as we go along, and we are welcoming Alex, but I know that you're going to be a great support to him and to continue for the city of Doral. So thank you so much for everything. You've been a pleasure. Thank you.
I don't know about all that, but no, I'm just kidding. I love you, Michelle. All right, come on,
Oh,
come
it
on.
truly has been a pleasure. Corradino is a partner to the city where this is our home. And so
Yes.
having this opportunity to be able to serve the city in the last 2 years has really been a joy. I always say your team here is incredible. It's an amazing group of professionals. I'm so glad that I had had the privilege to call in my colleagues over the last 2 years into the manager's office. It's been a joy. There's a lot of hard work, but a lot of good laughs, and we have fun around here. So I want to thank each of you for welcoming me on the team. And I know it's not always an easy conversation, Mayor, but we always get to the right answer. And so that's the great part about planning. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And you're still driving to Doral. Your offices are
Yeah,
still
yeah,
here,
my office
so
is
you guys are home.
on 97th and 41st, so won't go
I will
far.
miss you. I will. Yes, next time. Where shopping is a pleasure.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
And lastly, we have Milkshake's birthday on Friday. She will be a year already. So we just wanted to wish her a happy birthday at the request of our chief. Thank you guys so much. You're wonderful. And Officer Carrillo, thank you so much for taking care of her. Has she learned a lot?
Learned a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, all credit to her though. She's super smart.
Yeah, thank you, Officer Carrillo, for everything you do in our community. And I know that the community loves Milkshake. So thank you very much for bringing her today.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And that will conclude our March council meeting. We will see you all back here in April. If there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Reynoso. Second by Councilman Pinedo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. See you all in April.